All right, folks, here we are at 5 p.m. and this is pretty much the end of the battle. So this will be the last report. AP Hill brought up his division, but at around the same time, the rest of Fifth Corps made their attack recovery and quickly moved to reinforce Cemetery Hill. Union have guns up here. It would be absolutely futile to attack. These are all pretty small, light regiments. You can see here 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 versus the 5s and 6s SP strength of 5th Corps. The full corps is now here. 2nd Corps on their right. There's basically 2 full Union corps around this Cemetery Hill area with their guns set up. Good lines of sight to these approaching Confederate troops. I'm not even going to attempt that. From the Confederate perspective, it would be an absolute massacre trying to push up that hill, and not even worth trying. From their perspective, keep in mind they're trying to survive, and they've done that. So it is I wouldn't say a victory, but they've achieved some strategic objectives by not being pushed off the field. They've held their position. The Union has not broken through. At the same time, could the Union push is a question. Maybe not within the next hour and a half. Again, this is 5 o'clock. There's about an hour and a bit left. They might be able to make some gains, but the big risk here is fluke stoppage. The 2nd Division of 5th Corps has suffered, and they would struggle to make an attack recovery if they suffer that fluke stoppage. So there's been some suggestion that could the Confederates break out to the north? Possibly, but they've got a kind of a narrow gap to run through. Probably not within the next hour or so. You may have noticed again, I pointed this out in the last video, but these are all very, very weak. 1 SP, 2 SPs, very, very heavily reduced forces along this area. Most of them are 1s, 2s, the occasional 3. Up at the top here, 1 there. So yeah, the reason they've pulled back is because they can't fight anymore. And they're within... Crikey, they're within line of sight of, must be about 40 SP worth of Union artillery facing out towards the west. From here, 12th Corps Artillery, 12th Corps Artillery, and I don't know what they were on. It must have been there. 12th Corps Artillery and 1st Corps Artillery to their right. Pleasanton has been unable to make an attack recovery, but he's not needed anyway. The last hour has actually been really quiet. Not much has changed at all. 5th Corps made their attack recovery. They moved up. They've achieved their objectives anyway. AP Hill's division moved up and stared at this defensive line on Cemetery Hill and thought, not going to sacrifice these troops for nothing. It's not even worth. You've got it may not be kind of clear to see, but there are some very solid Union lines around here. Here you've got the first line of 5s and 6s. Second line, you've got the Green troops, 20th Maine here, incidentally. 8. He's 1. I don't know what he's doing there. But sort of a third line of the 5th Corps moving in. 2nd Corps available to support. They haven't, the 2nd Division of the 2nd Corps hasn't seen battle. They've got 8, 6, 10 SPs, artillery behind them on high ground. There's high elevation up here. They can see quite far. Have I sold this yet? That it's not worth charging up the hill. So as I said, Confederates can claim some sort of strategic gain. Technically, it is a Union tactical victory. They have seized or held the Hagerstown Pike, pushed Confederates off that road, almost cornered them in this southwest corner. If the Confederates start to move troops here, they'll be targeted. This is the Potomac River up here. There's a narrow corridor here. They could try to squeeze through, not using the Hagerstown Pike Road. They'd really need to head down to the southwest to to Blackford's Ford. Yeah. So, in reflection, I think, Union is lucky and unlucky at the same time. All these fluke stoppages they suffered were crippling to their morale and my morale. Ninth Corps, incidentally, they've made one attack recovery, but they've deemed their objective futile, so they're not going to pursue that. It's impossible to cross this lower bridge. Just a hail of firepower pouring on here from all around, one unit at a time. Union can get some counterfire from across the banks, but there's lines of trees, so you can see this line of trees along here, so they can't shoot across there. They can get kind of here and I think around here, but they can't see far. You can basically see the 3 hexes right in front, so very limited visibility. So yeah, Ninth Corps struggled all day. It took them, and keep in mind, I issued them orders at, I believe it was 7:30 a.m. They didn't start moving. The 1st Division didn't start moving until 10 a.m. The others took half an hour, 45, 60 minutes to follow to head towards the sunken to the lower bridge. And that was well, in hindsight, maybe I should have sent one more division down south. They did okay down there, but just not enough. It was really the actions here of one division of the Richardson's division of the 2nd Corps, most valuable division of the day for the Union, and of course 2nd Division, Sykes's 2nd Division of the 5th Corps, with that final run up Cemetery Hill, briefly supported by Pleasanton's cavalry. Look, also the other consideration here, which hasn't really been covered by the reports, is the power of Union artillery. They put their guns in the right places, basically. If you can see behind the lines, there's not a lot of Confederate artillery, none up here. That's an oversight. They've had to pull back to the high ground up here, and there are a lot of guns out in the northwest. Too many guns out here in the northwest. They were positioned up here throughout much of the morning, midday, when that 1st Corps attack was raging, and they never really moved. And that's partly my fault as playing the Confederates. I should have thought to relocate them further down to the south. There's so much to think about in this game. I'll talk more about that in sort of a review video, but every battery to be posted, the orders for all these divisions and corps, and checks to be made. I've got pieces of paper, it's off camera, but scraps of paper everywhere tracking ammunition and orders, and then there's old orders, and I've started to use both sides of these order sheets to keep track of all these things. So a lot to keep track of, and just a Confederate oversight on the placement of that artillery. It I think it would have certainly helped up here. If they could have, there are a lot of guns up here. As soon as the Confederates ran out of ammunition, they're gone, and that emptied Cemetery Hill pretty quickly. Yes, they got some good hits off, but then they're gone. So it's kind of like, you inflict a hit, and then you're out of ammo, and you have to leave the field to resupply. Incidentally, the same thing started to happen to the Union. Once they bring their guns up here, they also start running out of ammo, and they have to also leave the field. The difference for the Union is they're hitting on a lower die roll. So you've got, let's say, 6 or 8 SP firing. Let's say 6 most of the time. Even at range, if you reduce the range to the 4 to 5 column, they're still hitting on an 8 or more. So almost 50% of the time, almost, they're hitting, and that's not exhausting any of their ammo. They only exhaust their shells on an 11 or 12, which is so anything on an 8, 9, or 10, which is fairly common when you're firing with all these guns, is hitting without exhausting ammunition. For the Confederates, it's very different. They're 2, 3, sometimes 4 SP guns, really only hitting often on a 10 or more, sometimes a 9, 10, 11, or 12. And with that 10 or more, the 11 or 12 exhaust their ammunition and they're gone. So basically what's happening is the Union guns are causing more damage without running out of ammunition. It's kind of an administrative factor for the Union with their larger batteries and more guns in this area. If the Confederates had more guns here, it might be different, but they didn't. Look, I could go on for days about fluke stoppages and attack recoveries and how frustrating it is, but let me just emphasize it really, really captures the feeling of command. Something that this title does brilliantly is capture the feeling of command, of, being in McClellan's shoes, trying to issue orders, trying to get the bloody Ninth Corps to move out. It is an amazing simulation of American Civil War warfare and the issues of command faced. There's a lot of criticism of fluke stoppages. Yes, it is immensely frustrating and damages morale, but without those rules, the Union would easily just roll right over the Confederates. So all these fluke stoppages and rolling for attack, it all seemed to create, in the long run, a really tense and exciting story. So as I said, folks, wrapping up here, Union tactical victory, but the Confederate survives. Confederate survive, and they will withdraw. And so they can claim sort of strategic, I wouldn't call it a victory, but they weren't wiped out, and they're happy with that. I'll give some final thoughts in a separate review video. I want to talk about all the other scenarios and what this does. So thanks everyone for watching, and take care.